Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this morning. If you may have heard, we are recording this webinar this morning, just to give you a heads up. And it's it's almost 11:02, so I think I'll get started just on introductions and stating the title of the slide. So my name is Madison Burrus. I am a computer systems engineer with ESS-DIVE, and our webinar this month is on sharing and collaborating datasets. ESS-DIVE released a new feature in this past fall, so we wanted to get you guys started on letting you know on how to use it, and just kind of also informing you that this feature is now available to you. Okay, let's talk about the objectives for our webinar today. We're going to go over some reasons why you may want to share data sets on ESS-DIVE. And we'll talk about what sharing permissions are available to you. And finally, how you can use this feature overall. Like, we'll go through a step-by-step and have a live demo plan so you can see it in action. And as you'll see shortly, this sharing feature is a permission that you can grant to your team members, and it allows them to review, edit, revise, or even publish data sets that you've created. So it's a whole new dynamic on ESS-DIVE, and we're pretty excited to be introducing this to you guys. Yeah, you may have already noticed that there's a new button when you're editing data sets. So yeah, you'll be able to hear more about it today. So what does it mean to share data sets? When you share data sets on ESS-DIVE, as I mentioned, you can view private data sets. You can edit the metadata. You can add, remove files, publish a data set, and you can also even allow other people to share the data set with other team members. So it's not something that just the original creator themselves has to manage. Okay, so why might you want to share your data set? There are actually quite a few reasons you might want to do this. One big reason is that private data sets are no longer just private to you yourself. You can now allow other people to see private data sets that you've created. And you're able, to control this. Before, this might have been something you requested from ESS-DIVE admin, but now you have full control to show as many team members as you need the data set you're working on. And this might be especially good if you have, if you're writing a paper publication and you're getting your data set ready to publish, it's associated with that publication, and you have a couple co-authors that need to review your private data set before you hit publish on it. And now you can easily do that. Another reason might be that you have a team member that started the data set, but for whatever reason, they may not have been able to complete it themselves. And so maybe they started the data set and someone else just needs to embellish on the methods or the abstract or add more authors. They can go in and edit themselves. Some other reasons why you may need to pass on a data set is if, we've had a couple of cases where people have moved on to a new role or they've retired and they can no longer manage the data set themselves. You can now pass this along to someone else. A third reason is that your PI or your data manager for your team needs to review all data sets for your project. And this might be for reporting purposes. We do have existing ways that a data manager can view all data sets created by your project, such as by using our data portals or even by using the search filter on our data search page. That might be one way you could do this, but an additional advantage by sharing your data set with the data manager is that they can view all private data sets as well. And so it's not just limited to public data sets. And this is advantageous because you can see all the effort and work that your team is currently putting in towards publishing your data sets. And finally, the last reason we'll go over is We have a package service API, and this is something that allows you to programmatically upload and edit data sets on ESS-DIVE. You're now also able to share them with the API, and so you may have a developer on your team who has been uploading and creating data sets on ESS-DIVE themselves, but this developer isn't responsible for publishing the data sets. And now the developer can pass along this responsibility to a data manager by sharing it with them, and then they can then publish it or edit it or review it or whatever needs to be done once that data set's created. Okay, so now we'll talk about the different permission types that are available to you. But before we go into the types, I do need to go over who is able to receive permissions. If someone has never visited ESS-DIVE before, or maybe they've just visited the data search page, they would be, a part of the general public. Anyone is able, like if they have the link to ESS-DIVE, anyone's able to visit it. They can view and they can download data without needing to do anything else. But they are not able to receive dataset permissions. The only two kinds of people who can receive dataset permissions are people with an ESS-DIVE account and people who have registered to become data contributors. To have an ESS-DIVE account, you do need to have an ORCID ID, and you also need to use this ORCID ID to log into ESS-DIVE. By doing this, you have created your ESS-DIVE account. To become a data contributor, once you have an ESS-DIVE account, you then need to send a formal request to ESS-DIVE and to create and submit data sets. And this request needs to be approved, of course, and once it is, you will be a data contributor. And so this distinction is pretty important because sometimes the two get confused because it can be a little unclear at times. So now we can talk about what permission types you can give out and what you can do once you have those permission types. So if you have an account with ESS-DIVE, you can be given permission to view any data set. By having view permission, you can read and read and review a data set, but you can also search for it on the data search page. When you're not logged in, you can only see public data sets, but once you do log in, you'll notice that there might be a couple of data sets with an orange lock button next to it, and these are all private data sets, and they will become visible to you and searchable. If you are a data contributor, you will be able to receive permission to edit data sets. So if you just have an account, you cannot edit a data set. A data contributor who has given permission to edit a data set can edit the metadata, they can add and remove files from the data set, and they can also publish it in your place. If the creator can't publish it for any reason, an editor can do this and go through the publication and review process. The third and final permission type available to you to choose from is the managed permission type. Again, you must be a data contributor to receive the managed permission type. And with this, you can do everything that an editor can do. But the only additional ability you have is to remove and add people from the dataset permissions. So you can, as a manager, you can share the dataset with others. Yes, and it is important to note that anyone who has managed permission can remove people from the dataset permission. So maybe you want to be selective about this role, about who receives this role. After hearing that, you may be wondering, what about the creator of the dataset? What can they do? And this person who creates a dataset, they automatically have managed permissions. And an important thing to note is that that permission cannot be changed and it cannot be removed. So someone else who can manage the data set, and it will not be able to remove the creator from the permissions, and they will always have access to this data set. And that also means that this permission cannot be changed from managed to view. So they can always edit it, and they can always, the creator can remove other people from the managed data set. And so none of those abilities are going to be changed. So I just wanted to, I went through a lot of information just now, so I want to take a quick minute to pause and allow room for questions. So please, if you have a question in your mind, just let me know and we can go over it. Okay, I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat, so I'll move on, but you can interrupt at any moment if a question comes to mind. And there will, of course, be other opportunities to ask questions. So now we'll go through a step-by-step on how to share a data set. Oh, and it is pretty self-explanatory, but I think an important thing to know is where to find this functionality. And once you are familiar with where to find it, it'll be, I think you'll be good from there. You'll be able to use this feature pretty easily. So step one is to open the dataset landing page itself. This is the only access point to the share feature. So you'll have to go to the landing page link and you'll need to select the edit button to go into an editing session. Once you've opened an editing session, you'll then need to select the share button, which is in the UI, this is something we've very recently added and you may have already seen before in the last month or so since it's been added. Once you select that button, a new sharing options window will appear, and it'll kind of cover the whole page. It'll be pretty obvious. From here, you'll see a couple of instructions on how to use it, a quick overview on what the access permission means in case you need a refresher. You don't need to look externally from here in order to review that. And then beneath that, you'll see a table of everyone who has access to your data set. And this, of course, includes yourself. You may you'll notice that there's a sort of group here, it has all these symbols and it says ESS-DIVE. You don't need to worry about this. You can pretty much just ignore this. It doesn't make a difference if you accidentally remove it. You don't have to worry about adding it again. And it also doesn't make a difference if it's there. This is just part of the way ESS-DIVE operates. And so I just want to give you a heads up that if you see this, don't need to worry about it. You can just go about your business, not worry about it. Oh, and you'll also notice at the top, I just have another reminder here that only people who receive managed permissions can share data sets. So if you have edit access to this data set, you won't see the share button and you won't be able to open the sharing options window. So no need to be alarmed if you don't see this, if someone shared a data set with you. Okay, and from here, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a search bar. You can just start typing the name of your team member, and you don't need to know their ORCID ID. You just need to know their first and last name. And if you're searching for a team member and you don't see them pop up, what this means is that they do not have an account with ESS-DIVE. As we've already previously mentioned, only people with an ESS-DIVE account can view, and only people who are data contributors can edit or manage. And so this is just a quick reminder that if you don't see their name here, you'll just need to send them a quick email or a message and let them know that they need to create an account. So once you find your team member, select it. You'll then be able to change their access permissions via a drop down on the rightmost column. This will also be an opportunity for you to change any existing permissions as well. And you can change these at any time if you need to modify them for any reason. So once you have all your team members added and you have the correct access permission selected, all you need to do is click Save. Once you click save, the sharing options window will close, and then you just need to submit your data set, because as we were previously mentioned, you're in a live editing session, so it's good just to submit these changes you've made, even if you have not made any metadata changes at this time. Okay, and that's it. So I wanted to go through just a quick demo because even though it's pretty self-explanatory, I find that it's helpful to go through it live so you can see all the familiar parts and pieces, and it just falls into place nicely. So I'll just quickly go to ESS-DIVE's data repository. Yeah, Val, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a clarification on the sharing panel window that you showed. For a regular user that is not an administrator, they should never see the internal ESS-DIVE groups or have the opportunity to remove them. So when you're looking at this user interface, just know that Madison is an administrator and will be able to see those groups. And that just gives our internal admins the ability to, manage all of the ESS-DIVE.
Thanks, Val. Thanks for making that important comment. Okay, so yeah, so I have a landing page open here. I'm going to hit edit. And then I'll select the share button here. And here's the window. Actually, that timing of your comment is pretty good, Val, because you'll see that there's quite a few additional groups here that are visible to me as an administrator. And if you're not an administrator, you'll just see that there are 2 people who are able to view this data package. I won't demo this, of course, but I just wanted to show you how easily you can find this button. Okay, and I'll just back out. Don't need to save any of that progress, and we'll leave this page. I think before I move on, I just want to give just pause for another moment in case anyone has questions about any of this, because I'll go through some other important details about this feature next. Okay. Let's hopefully start from this slide. Okay. So now that you've shared your data set, and now that this, we've gone over the basics of the feature, I just want to mention that it is not possible to concurrently edit a data set on ESS-DIVE. So for example, if you're on a Google Doc with your team members, you can see exactly where the other person is. You can edit it live, and you can see their edits, and you can see their edits, and it's like, it's very fluid. That is concurrent editing, and that is, not available with ESS-DIVE datasets. And so what this means is that whoever is the last person to hit submit, all of their changes, whatever their data set looks like at that time, it will overwrite all previous edits and previous versions of the data set. And so this is especially important if you've just given, let's say, person A and person B edit access to your data set, and they just happen to immediately start editing that data set at the same time. And so if person A were to submit their data set, that becomes like the next draft version of the data set. But person B, because they branched off the original draft data set, they don't have any of the edits that person A made in their data set. And when they eventually hit submit, their draft is going to overwrite whatever person A submitted. So it's just important to keep this in mind. And if there's any way you can communicate with your team members to make sure that you don't have too many people editing at once, we really advise that. And we also have another suggestion. If you're creating a data set with the intention to edit it live with your colleagues and build it up on the spot with them, we highly recommend using ESS-DIVE's offline metadata template to do that to do that there instead of in ESS-DIVE itself. This is a Google document, and so you can download it and you can open it in your Google Drive and share it with your colleagues there. Or if you have another collaborative text editor that you prefer, you can upload it there. But yeah, we do recommend doing that offline. And then once you have a majority of your metadata built up, you can then copy and paste it into ESS-DIVE. And that's one way you can avoid overwriting progress and not losing any of the effort you've put in. Just see if there's something in the, okay, so I'm just checking out the chat. So I see we have a question here. Someone's asking, does it work the same way for portals? Ethan, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, do you mind clarifying what you're referring to when you say it? And you can type in the chat or you can speak up, whichever is more comfortable to you.
Hi, yes, so can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, great. Yeah, no, I was referring to giving other people in your team permissions.
Oh, I see. If you can give your team members permission to work on your portal.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Yes, great question. Thank you for bringing that up. We currently, if you want to share your portal with other people, that is possible, but it's not something that you can manage yourself. You'll just need to send us an email and request to have someone edit your portal.
Okay, so the easier way would be to individually add them to different data sets then, is that correct?
Oh, I see. So yeah, that would, yes, if you have, if you need to share a number, like let's say 10 data sets that are all from the same project with your team member, you would need to do that individually for each data set. Yeah, so you can, right, so you can share portals, but that allows you to edit the portal. But if you share a portal with someone, that does not mean that they're able to edit the data sets within a portal.
Okay, that's a great clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic question. Thank you. Okay, so there's no questions on concurrent editing. I'll move on to our next slide. And I just want to give, we're going to talk briefly about sharing data with a package service API. I mentioned in one of my overview slides that that there's some cases where a project may have a developer on their, software developer on their team who is transferring or creating data sets in ESS-DIVE programmatically. If that is the case, they're using the package service API. And just briefly, this is an API tool. We've extended this tool to now allow programmatic sharing of data sets. And just quickly, the API follows standard HTTP request schema, and we won't go into the details of how to set up this code and how to submit an HTTP request. But this is information that we do have available. We've covered it in previous webinars. We also have it in our package service tutorial documentation. And so if you need information on some of the basics on how this functions, you can find it there. And here we're just going to go over the pieces, the parts of this new extension, this new ability to programmatically share data sets. So it's pretty, once you know how to submit these requests, it's pretty simple. When you share a data set, all you need is your team member's ORCID. You'll need the dataset identifier, which is available on the dataset landing page. Note that this identifier is a long sequence of numbers. It's not the DOI of the published dataset. It's something else. And when you open your landing page, you'll see that it's the first item under the general section. And maybe you've noticed it before and wondered what it is, but yeah, you'll need this. And finally, you'll just need your authentication token, which you'll find under your settings page. And again, you'll see this information repeated on in our documentations. So once you have those three things, you'll just need to grab the code that we have available. I have a link here to our technical documentation, and this is just a screenshot of where you'll find it. So this information is will be useful to reference as you're doing this, but yeah, you'll grab this, you'll copy it, and you'll see exactly where you need to enter your authentication token, your identifier, and your team member ORCID IDs. And then you'll just submit the HTTP request. And yeah, so that's the quick overview. Yeah, I won't go into more details than that because that's a whole other subject, but just again, this service is available. It can be done programmatically, and in a case kind of going back to Elon's question about sharing, let's say like, again, 10 data sets or so with your project team members. This may become easier if you take advantage of the package service API to do this. And it could be something you may want to explore. So next, we're going to talk about how to find data sets shared with you. And so this will be, after the dataset creator has given, let's say, edit access to a couple of their team members, they may, and maybe you yourself have a number of data sets now that have been shared with you, and you're wondering, how you can find those. So first step is I want to familiarize you with the My Data Packages filter. This is something that is available underneath your profile. So you just select the profile dropdown, and there's this My Data Packages option. This does not take you to a different page. You'll stay on the data search page, and what this does is that it'll automatically filter all the data sets in the data search page. And so you'll no longer have 500 something data package to search through, because this filter will show you only data sets that you have, excuse me, created yourself, that you have received permission to edit, and you have received permission to manage. And so it'll become a much smaller list of data sets to search through. So, and you'll notice that you won't see data sets that you only have ability to view. You'll have to use a separate way to find those data sets. So we'll first just go over for editors and managers. As we mentioned, you'll select that data packages filter, and you'll see a much more manageable list. And you can either search through this list manually by just tabbing through the pages until you find the data set you're looking for, or you can take advantage of the data search filters to find that data set you're looking for. An important thing that I want to mention here is that after you've selected My Data Packages, there's no way to distinguish data sets that you've edited from data sets that you've managed. You'll see these all at once on the search page, and you won't be able to use the search filters to say, show me just the data sets I can manage. So you'll just need to go based off the title. And of course, once you select the data set, you'll be able to tell pretty immediately whether you have access to edit or manage the data set. So if you have view permission and you select the My Data Packages filter, you will not be able to see the data sets that you have view permission for. This is because when you receive view permission, it's not considered your data package. You're not, because you can't collaborate on it since you are only able to review it. And so if you select that, you'll be filtering out the data packages you can only view. So our recommendation is to not select that, and just to open the data search page and to use the usual search filters to find data packages that you can view. And so in this example, I have used the word Arctic to search for data sets that were created by the project Next Generation Ecosystems Experiments Arctic. And one quick way to notice if you have view permission on a data set is that you'll see this orange lock icon. This is a private data set, and if it appears here in the search filter, that means you're able to view it. So that could be one hint that you can use to help search for these data sets. Of course, maybe the much more direct way of doing so is if you have the link direct, the URL from your colleague, you can use that, of course, to share, to find your data sets. Oh, and another good search tool you can use is to search by the creator's name. So if you know the name of the person who shared their data set with you, you can also enter their name in the search bar, and it will help narrow. Well, actually, sorry, you'll want to select the creator filter and then enter their name into the creator here to see all the data sets they created. And so that could be another way that you can find your data sets that you have received view permission on. Okay. So now I'll go over a couple of resources you have if you need to review any of this material while you're sharing data sets and you have a couple of questions. We do have some resources available to you. The first thing I'll mention is we have detailed documentation available on our sharing data page. You'll just have to go to docs.ess-dive.lbl.gov. It'll be on the table of contents, and everything that we've gone over in this webinar is detailed in documentation page. And so you could check that out right now if you'd like. I don't know if someone in the audience here could enter the URL for the docs page in case people want to check that out right now, but that is available to you later. And our second resource we have, okay, sorry about that. Seems like there's a issue displaying that page. Let me try presenting it again. That's the wrong page. There we go. Let's try this one more time. Yes, there we go. Okay, so the second resource we have available is the webinar page. After this webinar is done, you'll be able to access both a recording of this webinar as well as the slides from ESS-DIVE's website. So you'll just go to ESS-DIVE.lbl.gov and you'll click on the news and events dropdown and you'll see our webinar page there. If you haven't ever visited this page before, you'll also see that all of our prior webinars are available there as well in case there's any material that you'd like to review. Okay, I've gone over all the content that I wanted to today, and so now I'll just have a quick summary before we go into questions and we can talk in more detail about those. But yeah, today we talked about our new sharing feature and how you can now use this to collaborate on ESS-DIVE much more easily than before. Your team members can now view, edit, or manage any data set you create. You can change permissions at any time without having to worry if you accidentally gave the wrong person permission to your data set, or you need to change from view to edit. You can do that easily at any point. We went over that concurrent editing is not possible, and it's important to be careful about overwriting progress accidentally. And finally, you may want to check out ESS-DIVE's package service API in the future in case programmatically sharing a lot of data sets at once is of interest to your team. Yeah, Val, what is it?
Yeah, I just wanted to correct one thing that was said earlier that we didn't make clear, was that you actually can't, the sharing functionality does work for managing and editing portals. And so if you are familiar with creating and managing portals, when you're in the settings tab, you will see the sharing functionality there, and it'll look just like the one for the data packages.
Oh, great. Thanks, Val. Did you want to, I don't know, did you want to take a moment to step through this, or maybe I can go check it out myself since I'm sharing screen now? I don't know, what do you think?
Either is fine. I think all you need to do is, maybe go look at the ESS-DIVE tutorial portal and go into edit mode.
Cool. Okay.
So
I'll actually check the portals page and I'll edit the portal tutorial.
yep, and if you go to the settings tab to the right, and then go down, you'll see sharing options there.
Oh, great. Thank you, Val. Thanks for pointing this out.
And the permissions work the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fantastic. I'll back up this. Okay, so our webinar this month is pretty quick. You know, I didn't want to overload it with extra information, so I kept it to just the important parts and what we needed to communicate today. So I'll be here until 11, until noon PST, because that's our scheduled time. And you know, and anyone in attendance today, feel free to speak up if you have specific questions about, you know, maybe some issues you and your team members have been encountering that you think maybe you know, this new sharing feature could help assist. And you know, we have various members from the ESS-DIVE team here today, so it's a great opportunity to ask us questions if you have some. But thank you so much for joining us today and attending the webinar. And I hope this has been a useful resource to you. And I'm excited to see more people using the sharing feature in the near future. But thank you.